Hello and welcome to this deep dive into a topic that's as intriguing as it is misunderstood. The art of being cold and calculated. When you hear those words, cold and calculated, what comes to mind? Maybe it's a chess grandmaster plotting their next move, a CEO making a tough call that affects thousands, or even a fictional character like a detective who seems to operate without a shred of emotion. There's something magnetic about people who can keep their cool, think several steps ahead, and act with precision, isn't there? But being cold and calculated isn't about being heartless or cruel. It's about mastering your emotions, sharpening your mind, and moving through life with intention. In this video, we're going to unpack what it really means to embody this mindset, why it's a powerful tool for navigating a chaotic world, and how you can cultivate it without losing your humanity. Buckle up, because this is going to be a journey into the psychology, philosophy, and practical steps behind living with clarity and control. Let's start by defining our terms. Being cold in this context doesn't mean being devoid of feeling or compassion. It's about emotional discipline, the ability to keep your emotions from clouding your judgment. Think of it like a pilot flying through a storm. The turbulence is real, the stakes are high, but they stay focused on the instruments, not the chaos outside. Being calculated, on the other hand, is about strategic thinking. It's the art of seeing the bigger picture, anticipating outcomes, and choosing your actions deliberately. Together, these qualities create a mindset that's razor-sharp, resilient, and effective. But why would anyone want to live this way? The answer lies in the world we inhabit. Life is unpredictable. Opportunities vanish, relationships falter, and challenges arise when you least expect them. A cold and calculated approach equips you to handle these realities with grace and precision, rather than being swept away by impulse or emotion. To understand this mindset, let's look at a historical figure who embodied it. Cleopatra, the last active ruler of the Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt. Cleopatra wasn't just a charismatic leader. She was a master strategist who navigated a treacherous political landscape. Rome was rising, her kingdom was vulnerable, and she was surrounded by rivals who wanted her throne. Yet she managed to maintain power for over 2 decades. How? By being cold and calculated. She formed alliances with powerful Romans like Julius Caesar and later Mark Antony, not out of blind passion, but because she saw the long-term benefits for Egypt. When her alliances faltered, she didn't panic or act rashly. She recalibrated, negotiated, and even used her charm as a calculated tool to secure her position. Cleopatra's story shows us that being cold and calculated isn't about suppressing who you are. It's about channeling your strengths strategically to achieve your goals. Now you might be thinking, that sounds great for a queen, but what about the rest of us? Fair point. Let's bring this closer to home. Imagine you're at work and your boss throws a curveball. A project deadline gets moved up and your team is already stretched thin. Your colleagues are freaking out, tempers are flaring, and the pressure's on. If you let your frustration take over, you might snap at someone or make a hasty decision that backfires. But what if you take a step back, breathe, and assess the situation? You prioritize tasks, delegate effectively, and communicate calmly. That's being cold and calculated in action. You're not ignoring the stress, you're managing it so it doesn't manage you. This ability to stay composed and strategic under pressure is what sets high performers apart in any field, whether it's business, sports, or even personal relationships. So, how do we develop this mindset? It starts with self-awareness. You can't control your emotions if you don't understand them. Take a moment to reflect on the last time you reacted impulsively. Maybe you sent an angry email you later regretted, or you said something in a heated argument that you didn't mean. These moments happen because we let our emotions hijack our decision-making. The first step to being cold and calculated is recognizing your triggers. Are you quick to anger? Do you crumble under pressure? Do you get paralyzed by fear of failure? Journaling can be a powerful tool here. Write down situations where you lost control and analyze what set you off. Over time, you'll start to see patterns, and that awareness is the foundation for change. Once you've got a handle on your triggers, the next step is emotional regulation. This doesn't mean bottling up your feelings, that's a recipe for burnout. Instead, it's about creating space between your emotions and your actions. One technique is the pause and process method. When you feel a strong emotion like anger or anxiety, pause for a few seconds. Take a deep breath, count to 5, or even step away if you can. This brief moment gives your brain a chance to shift from reactive mode to reflective mode. Then ask yourself, what's the most effective way to handle this? For example, if someone cuts you off in traffic, your instinct might be to honk and yell. But pausing lets you realize that escalating the situation won't help. It'll just ruin your day. By practicing this pause, you train yourself to respond deliberately, not impulsively. Let's talk about the calculated part now. Strategic thinking is like playing a mental game of chess. You need to see the board, your goals, your resources, and the obstacles in your way. Then you need to anticipate how your moves will play out. A great way to build this skill is by adopting a framework called if-then planning. It's simple but powerful. For every decision, map out the possible outcomes. If I take this job, then what happens to my work-life balance? If I confront my friend about their behavior, then how might they react? By thinking through these scenarios, you're preparing yourself for different possibilities, which reduces surprises and helps you act with confidence. This approach is especially useful in high-stakes situations, like negotiating a salary or resolving a conflict. To illustrate, let's look at another historical example. Niccolò Machiavelli, the Renaissance philosopher whose name is synonymous with calculated thinking. Machiavelli's book The Prince is often seen as a guide to ruthless power, but it's really about pragmatism. He argued that leaders must be willing to make tough choices for the greater good, even if those choices seem harsh. For instance, he wrote about the need to be feared rather than loved if you cannot be both. This wasn't about cruelty, it was about stability. A leader who's too soft might lose control, leading to chaos. Machiavelli's insight applies to everyday life, too. Sometimes you need to make unpopular decisions, like saying no to a friend who's taking advantage of you or cutting ties with a toxic colleague. These choices require you to prioritize your long-term well-being over short-term comfort. But being calculated doesn't mean you're always scheming or manipulating. It's about aligning your actions with your values and goals. Let's say you're trying to get in shape. A calculated approach means setting a clear plan. You decide to work out 3 times a week, track your meals, and get enough sleep. You anticipate obstacles like a busy schedule or cravings and plan around them. Maybe you prep meals in advance or keep your gym bag ready to go. This isn't cold in the sense of being robotic. It's cold in the sense of being disciplined, staying focused even when motivation wanes. The beauty of this mindset is that it applies to any goal, whether it's building a business, improving your relationships, or mastering a new skill. Now let's address a common misconception, that being cold and calculated makes you unlikable or detached. This couldn't be further from the truth. People who master this mindset often come across as confident, reliable, and even charismatic. Why? Because they're not swayed by every passing emotion or whim. They're the ones you can count on in a crisis, the ones who think clearly when everyone else is panicking. Think of someone like Angela Merkel, the former German chancellor. She was often described as reserved and analytical, yet she led Germany through economic crises, refugee challenges, and global tensions with remarkable steadiness. Her ability to stay calm and calculated didn't make her unapproachable, it earned her respect. That said, there's a balance to strike. If you lean too far into being cold and calculated, you risk coming across as aloof or manipulative. The key is to pair this mindset with empathy and integrity. Empathy allows you to understand others' perspectives, which makes your decisions more effective and your interactions more genuine. Integrity ensures that your calculated moves align with your moral compass. For example, let's say you're negotiating a business deal. A purely cold and calculated approach might involve pushing for every advantage, even if it means bending the truth. But if you incorporate empathy and integrity, you'll aim for a deal that benefits both sides while being honest about your intentions. This builds trust and long-term success, not just short-term wins. Let's dive into some practical tools for cultivating this mindset in your daily life. One of the most effective is meditation. Now, I know meditation can sound like a cliche, but hear me out. It's not about sitting cross-legged and chanting. It's about training your mind to stay present and focused. Even 5 minutes a day of mindfulness meditation, where you focus on your breath and gently bring your attention back when it wanders, can improve your emotional regulation. Studies show that regular meditation reduces activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center, which helps you stay calm under pressure. Over time, this practice makes it easier to pause and process even in heated moments. Another tool is visualization. Athletes use this technique all the time, and it's just as powerful for everyday life. Before a big meeting, a tough conversation, or any high-stakes situation, take a moment to close your eyes and picture yourself handling it with confidence and clarity. Imagine the challenges that might come up and how you'll respond. This mental rehearsal primes your brain to stay composed and strategic when the moment arrives. For example, if you're nervous about a job interview, visualize yourself answering questions calmly, asking smart follow-ups, and leaving a strong impression. This isn't just wishful thinking. It's a way to prepare your mind for success. Let's talk about decision-making, because that's where being cold and calculated really shines. One of the biggest mistakes people make is relying too heavily on intuition or gut feelings. Intuition has its place, but it's often swayed by biases or incomplete information. A calculated approach involves gathering data, weighing pros and cons, and considering long-term consequences. A simple framework for this is the decision matrix. Write down your options, list the criteria that matter, like cost, time, or impact, and score each option based on those criteria. This doesn't mean you ignore your instincts, it means you balance them with logic. For instance, if you're deciding whether to move to a new city, you might weigh factors like job opportunities, cost of living, and proximity to family. A decision matrix helps you see the trade-offs clearly, so you're not just reacting to excitement or fear. Time management is another area where this mindset pays off. Being cold and calculated means prioritizing ruthlessly. You can't do everything, and trying to please everyone is a surefire way to burn out. A technique called the Eisenhower Matrix can help here. Divide your tasks into 4 categories: urgent and important, important but not urgent, urgent but not important, and neither urgent nor important. Focus on the important tasks. Delegate or minimize the urgent but unimportant ones and eliminate the rest. This approach forces you to think strategically about where your time and energy go, ensuring you're working toward your goals rather than just putting out fires. Let's explore the psychological side of this mindset a bit more. Being cold and calculated requires a strong sense of self-efficacy, the belief that you can handle whatever comes your way. This isn't about arrogance, it's about confidence rooted in preparation and resilience. Psychologists say that self-efficacy grows through 4 main sources: mastery experiences, vicarious experiences, social persuasion, and emotional regulation. Mastery experiences come from tackling challenges and succeeding even in small ways. Start with manageable goals like sticking to a morning routine or completing a project on time, and build from there. Vicarious experiences involve learning from others. Watch how people you admire handle tough situations, whether it's through books, interviews, or real-life observation. Social persuasion is about surrounding yourself with people who believe in you and encourage your growth. And emotional regulation, as we've discussed, is about staying calm under pressure. One fascinating aspect of this mindset is how it intersects with Stoicism, the ancient philosophy that's made a comeback in recent years. Stoicism teaches that we can't control external events, but we can control our reactions to them. This is the essence of being cold and calculated, focusing on what's within your power and letting go of what isn't. The Roman philosopher Seneca once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This idea is incredibly liberating. It means you don't have to be at the mercy of life's ups and downs. Whether it's a rejection, a setback, or an unexpected crisis, you can choose to respond with clarity and purpose. Stoicism doesn't ask you to suppress your emotions. It asks you to acknowledge them and then decide how to act. Let's look at a modern example of this mindset in action: Elon Musk. Say what you will about him, but Musk's ability to think strategically and stay focused under pressure is undeniable. When Tesla was on the brink of bankruptcy in 2008, Musk didn't let panic take over. He analyzed the situation, poured his own money into the company, and made tough calls to keep it afloat. His calculated risk-taking and relentless focus on long-term goals like sustainable energy have driven his success. Now, this doesn't mean you need to be a billionaire to think this way. It's about applying the same principles to your own life. Maybe it's taking a calculated risk on a new career path or staying disciplined with your finances during a tough time. The mindset is universal, but what about the downsides? No approach is perfect, and being cold and calculated has its pitfalls. One risk is overthinking. If you're too focused on analyzing every angle, you might fall into analysis paralysis where you can't make a decision at all. To avoid this, set clear deadlines for your decisions and stick to them. Another risk is emotional disconnect. If you prioritize logic over feeling for too long, you might struggle to connect with others or even with yourself. To counter this, make time for emotional expression, whether it's through journaling, talking to a trusted friend, or engaging in creative hobbies. The goal is balance, not extremes. Alignment with my values? Am I considering the impact of my choices on others? If you're unsure, seek feedback from people you trust. A mentor, friend, or colleague can offer an outside perspective and help you stay grounded. Ethics isn't about perfection. It's about striving to do better even when the stakes are high. Let's wrap up with some final thoughts on why this mindset matters. In a world that's increasingly complex and fast-paced, the ability to stay calm, think strategically, and act with intention is more valuable than ever. Being cold and calculated isn't about shutting off your humanity. It's about harnessing your mind's power to navigate life's challenges. It's about making choices that align with your goals, even when the path is tough. It's about building resilience so you can weather storms without breaking. And most importantly, it's about living with purpose so you can look back and know you made the most of your time. If you're ready to start cultivating this mindset, begin small. Pick one area of your life, maybe your work, your relationships, or your personal goals, and apply one of the strategies we've discussed. Maybe it's pausing before you react, using a decision matrix, or setting an if-then plan. Track your progress, reflect on what works, and keep refining your approach. Over time, these small changes will compound and you'll find yourself moving through life with greater clarity and control. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the art of being cold and calculated. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who might benefit, and let me know in the comments how you plan to apply this mindset in your own life. Until next time, stay sharp, stay focused, and keep moving forward with intention.